Have you ever felt that magnetic draw toward a woman, like she's unlocking a door you didn't know was locked inside you, only to find yourself months down the line, hollowed out, questioning why your ambitions slipped away in the quiet moments of trying to hold on to her? It's that subtle erosion, the way your sense of self dissolves in the pursuit of connection, leaving you with a lingering whisper. Why does closeness always cost me my center? If you turn away from this now, it doesn't vanish, it burrows deeper, transforming every future encounter into an echo of the same unspoken loss, a cycle where you're perpetually chasing wholeness through someone else. But pause here with me, because what if that irresistible pull isn't coming from her at all? What if it's a call from within, from the parts of you long buried, begging to be acknowledged? Let that sink in, like the first drop of rain on parched earth, awakening something dormant and vital. You've carried this weight silently, haven't you? That faint ache when her laughter echoes in your mind, pulling you from your own rhythm, making you wonder if true connection demands surrender, or if it's something more profound, a hidden invitation to reclaim what you've set aside. It's in these unspoken pulls that the Carl Jung shadow first stirs, not as an enemy, but as a forgotten voice, urging you to look beyond the surface glamour to the depths where your true self waits. Let that settle for a breath. Can you feel the faint crack in the facade? This isn't just confusion. It's the dawn of seeing yourself clearly, perhaps for the first time in years. Imagine standing before an ancient mirror, one that doesn't reflect your outer form, but the whispers of your soul, the ones muffled by years of striving and survival. It's unnerving at first, this gaze inward, but it's also the beginning of freedom, a quiet unraveling of the knots that have bound you without your knowing. And as you linger here, notice how the air around you feels heavier, charged with possibility, urging you to lean in rather than pull back, as if the universe itself is conspiring to draw you closer to the truths you've evaded. Picture the mirror's surface rippling slightly, like water disturbed by a gentle breeze, revealing glimpses of faces, not hers, but yours, in moments of unguarded truth, eyes wide with the wonder you felt as a child before the world taught you to hide it away. That child still lives within, whispering through the Carl Jung shadow, reminding you that the pull toward her is really a pull back to him, to the innocence and vitality sidelined in the name of growing up. Take a quiet moment now. Whisper it to the air. What hidden longings have the women in my life been mirroring back to me all along? Let the question hang there unanswered for now, allowing it to stir the depths, to evoke those forgotten yearnings that surface in dreams or in the stillness after a long day. This isn't about blame or regret. It's about recognition, about honoring the subtle signals your psyche has been sending through every glance, every touch, every moment of unspoken tension. And as you whisper, feel the Carl Jung shadow gently emerging, not to overwhelm, but to invite a deeper conversation with the self you've kept at arm's length. Feel the warmth in your chest as that conversation begins, like embers stirring under ash, ready to ignite a fire that warms rather than burns, guiding you toward a light that's been dimmed but never extinguished. You sense it in those fleeting instances, don't you? When her gaze lingers a second too long and suddenly your thoughts scatter, your priorities reshuffle without permission, leaving you wondering why her presence unravels your carefully built resolve. It's like an undercurrent in calm waters, pulling you subtly off course, invisible until you're adrift. Let me paint this for you. Through Elias, a 30-something software engineer from Seattle, the kind of guy who's always been the rock for his buddies, mapping out code like it's a roadmap to stability. One autumn afternoon, He bumps into Lila at a bustling coffee spot near his office. Nothing cinematic, just a clumsy spill of creamer and a shared chuckle that lingers. Days blur into weeks, and before he knows it, Elias is ditching his solitary mountain trails, the ones that recharged his spirit after long coding marathons to sync up with her evenings. At first it's thrilling, that spark, but soon the unease creeps in, shadowy and insistent like a fog rolling over familiar paths. He brushes it off as the glow of new love, yet in the still hours, an emptiness gnaws. Am I giving away my essence just to feel this warmth? Picture Elias alone in his dimly lit apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying their conversations, feeling that peculiar mix of exhilaration and loss, as if each shared moment chips away at his independence, revealing a vulnerability he hadn't anticipated. It's here that the Carl Jung shadow begins to whisper louder, manifesting as that nagging doubt, a reflection of the inner parts neglected in the chase for external harmony. And as the nights stretch longer, Elias notices how his once vivid dreams fade into fragments, replaced by scenes of pursuit and elusive figures, symbols of the self he's letting slip away in the name of this new rhythm. This isn't unique to Elias. It's woven into the fabric of how we connect, echoing Schopenhauer's old caution about love as nature's clever deception, a veil over raw biological drives. But peel back further, and it's your own psyche at play, projecting those dormant yearnings onto her form. She unwittingly becomes the vessel for your unexpressed soul, the dreams deferred, the softness sidelined in a world demanding constant output. And when she shifts, as people do, pulling back after the initial rush, or reshaping priorities around family or self, it stings like betrayal. Why the change? Why the distance? Yet it's no plot against you. It's the ancient archetype awakening, turning what could be union into a perceived snare. The real trigger, though, it's your inner world signaling time to gaze inward, to question the projections before they consume you. Think of it as a gentle alarm, not a siren, but a persistent hum that grows louder in silence, reminding you of the imbalance, the way you've outsourced parts of your being to another, hoping they'll fill the void you've ignored, all while the Carl Jung shadow waits patiently for acknowledgement. Imagine that hum vibrating through your body, starting in your gut and rising to your throat, urging words, unspoken feelings, unclaimed, to finally find their voice. Pause here, let the unease breathe. Every 90 seconds or so in this spiral, a truth surfaces that pull you blame on her might just be your soul's quiet rebellion against neglect. Allow yourself to feel the weight of that, the subtle resistance building within like roots, pushing through concrete, seeking nourishment long denied. As the resistance builds, it might manifest as a tightness in your shoulders or a quickened breath. Welcome it, for it's the precursor to release, the body's way of saying, it's time to reclaim what's yours. Reflect gently. Recall a time when a woman's energy disrupted your flow. What unspoken need was stirring beneath? Jot it down. Let the words anchor you. Perhaps it was a moment of laughter that turned to longing, or a casual touch that unearthed a forgotten ache. Whatever it is, hold it with kindness without rushing to explain it away. And as you jot, notice how the act of writing brings a subtle shift, like untying a knot that's been pulling tight for years, allowing space for breath and clarity to enter. And as this stirring intensifies, it fractures the illusion, exposing the rift you've carried silently for so long. It's in these cracks that light begins to seep through, illuminating paths you didn't know existed, paths that lead not away from connection, but deeper into your own authenticity, where the Carl Jung shadow transforms from shadow to guide. Breathe into this awareness. If it tugs at you, hit pause. Consider one tiny gesture today to honor that inner call, like a walk alone to reclaim your thoughts. Or maybe light a candle in a quiet room, letting its flame symbolize the spark awakening within you, steady and unyielding flickering, with the promise of warmth in the midst of chill. Beneath it all, you carry this quiet division, don't you? That chasm between the face you present, polished and unyielding, and the raw cravings you stifle to maintain harmony, to fit the role life scripted for you. It's as if you're two beings in one body, the dutiful navigator charting safe courses, and the wild explorer yearning for uncharted depths, their whispers growing louder in moments of solitude. Building on Elias's story as his days with Lila wove tighter, the resentment bubbled up not at her directly, but at how her independent streaks, those late shifts chasing her own passions as a graphic designer, felt like a personal slight. He'd label it as her, being distant, selfish even, but in truth, it was his own fracture mirroring back the independence he craved, but had traded for security, now projected onto her as some form of dominance. Schopenhauer framed love as a biological sleight of hand, the will to life masquerading as romance to perpetuate the species. But the Carl Jung Shadow delves richer. It's beyond mere instincts. It's the feminine essence within you, the anima repressed, and now demanding to be heard, to be woven into your being. Envision this shadow not as a villain lurking in the corners of your mind, but as a forgotten ally, a part of you that's been waiting patiently, gathering dust in the attic of your psyche, ready to infuse your life with color and depth once acknowledged. It's this very split that the Carl Jung Shadow embodies, a bridge between the known and the unknown self urging reconciliation. And as you envision that bridge, picture it spanning a misty ravine, its planks worn but sturdy, inviting you to cross with tentative steps, each one echoing the heartbeat of your divided self, seeking unity. This Carl Jung shadow isn't a distant specter. It's the tender vulnerabilities you deemed unworthy, the fluidity, the emotional tides pushed aside to embody strength in a culture that equates softness with weakness. Women face their parallel, the shadow of the animus, that assertive drive clashing against the ingrained pull to nurture, to yield. In the dance of relationships, this divide ignites chaos. He sees her expectations as cages, resenting the way she seems to draw him from his path. She senses his retreat into cynicism, a wall against intimacy. The helplessness swells, this internal tug of war between the persona you wear like armor and the soul's deeper hunger. You mute the intuition, the creative surges, and they resurface as accusations, casting her as the adversary in your story. Yet what if you lingered here, embracing the tension without rush? That's the seed of individuation. Jung's gentle journey to unity, where you mend the split, not through force, but through compassionate welcome. Picture walking through a divided forest, one side barren and structured, the other lush and untamed. Your task is to bridge them, to let vines grow across the divide, creating a harmonious whole that's stronger than either part alone, all under the watchful gaze of the Carl Jung shadow. As the vines entwine, feel the life pulsing through them, a reminder that division isn't permanent. It's an invitation to weave something new from the threads of what was once torn. Let this resonate every couple of minutes. Imagine if your irritation with her independence is actually grief for the freedom you've denied yourself. Feel the poignancy of that grief, the way it tugs at your chest, revealing layers of loss accumulated over years of compromise and adaptation. Allow the tears, if they come, to trace paths down your face, carving channels for healing waters to flow, washing away the residue of unspoken sorrow. Now for that mid-video jolt around the 6 to 8 minute mark here. a contradiction, to stir you. You've convinced yourself that facing this Carl Jung shadow will soften your resolve, make you vulnerable to loss. But in reality, it's the armor that reclaims your power, freeing you from orbiting anyone else's light. It's a twist that flips the narrative, turning what felt like weakness into your greatest strength, a paradoxical truth that lingers and demands reflection. Sit with that paradox. Let it unsettle the foundations of old beliefs, cracking them open to reveal hidden strength beneath like sunlight, piercing through storm clouds. Journal this softly. Which traits in women unsettle you deepest? Might they echo the anima fragments you've cast out? Take your time with this, letting the pen move slowly, uncovering truths that have been veiled in everyday distractions. As the words form, notice how they carry weight, each one a small excavation bringing buried treasures to the surface. As the fracture aches, it paves the way for illumination, the reveal that reshapes your entire lens. This ache isn't punishment. It's preparation, softening the ground for new growth, for insights that will bloom in unexpected ways like wildflowers, pushing through cracked earth after a long drought. Let this division invite you. Shut your eyes, briefly acknowledge a single buried feeling, and let it settle without judgment. Perhaps it's a flicker of envy or a wave of longing. Welcome it as you would an old friend returning home, offering it a seat at your inner table. Suddenly, it crystallizes sharp as dawn, light-piercing mist. The true captor isn't her. It's the shadowed archetype of womanhood etched in your unconscious, binding you tighter than any external force. You've pointed fingers at the seductress for stealing your focus, at the mother for demanding your all. But these are mere projections, echoes of your own forsaken potential cast outward. Schopenhauer decried women as agents of the will-consuming men's drive in service of life's relentless cycle, terrified of being engulfed by that primal energy. Yet the Carl Jung shadow offers a profound pivot. The dread you harbor toward her is the mirror of what you've exiled within, the unclaimed soulfulness, the creative fire dimmed to navigate a rational world. This pivot isn't intellectual. It's visceral, a sudden shift in perception that rearranges the pieces of your inner puzzle, revealing a picture you hadn't seen before, one where the chains you felt were self-forged, awaiting your own key to unlock. Feel that key in your hand, now cool and solid, turning with a soft click that echoes through your being, opening doors long sealed. Dive deeper with Theo, an introspective architect in his late 20s from Chicago, ever the logical builder, drafting precise structures by daylight while harboring secret verses of poetry in the quiet evenings. He encounters Nora at an art gallery opening, captivated by her untamed vitality, her storms of feeling that contrast his ordered life. The attraction is electric at the outset. She represents the turmoil he secretly longs for but shuns. As months unfold, her bold challenges to his meticulous routines, urging spontaneous trips or emotional openness, morph into what he calls manipulation, a derailment from his professional ascent. The revelation unfolds gradually, painfully. Theo's childhood with the aloof mother instilled in him the lesson to entomb feelings, for acceptance to prioritize blueprints over heartbeats. Nora unknowingly reflects that emptiness, awakening his dormant anima. The agony crests as he grasps that his indictments are veiled. Admissions. His terror of entrapment is his own aversion to vulnerability, to letting the inner feminine breathe. Let Theo's story linger here, like a shared confession around a flickering fire, reminding you of similar moments in your own life, where what seemed like external conflict was actually an internal echo amplifying until it could no longer be ignored. Perhaps you felt it too, that moment when a partner's independence sparks not admiration, but a quiet rage only to realize later it's your own caged spirit rattling the bars yearning for release. And in that realization, there's a quiet exhale, a release of breath held too long as the pieces fall into place with a satisfying certainty. In every such projection, the Carl Jung shadow weaves its spell, the yearning for boundless security in the mother figure, the apprehension of yielding to the seductress's allure. Left unexamined, they masquerade as external schemes warping affection into shackles, but once illuminated, they emancipate. As Jung articulated, the anima is not the soul in the dogmatic sense, but a natural archetype of the unconscious. Absorb that the reins aren't in her hands. They're clutched by your fragmented self awaiting reunion. Feel the weight lifting as this truth settles, like shedding an old skin that's grown too tight, revealing a fresher, more vibrant self beneath. It's a liberation that doesn't erase the past, but reframes it, turning what felt like betrayal into a sacred call to wholeness, a call that resonates in your bones like an ancient song finally remembered. Every 90 to 120 seconds, let this echo envision retrieving that outsourced strength. How might your bonds evolve into true partnerships? Imagine the freedom in that evolution, the way connections deepen when unburdened by unseen projections, flowering into something authentic and mutual. Picture your relationships not as battlegrounds, but as shared gardens where each person's growth nurtures the other without entanglement or loss, vines intertwining, yet each rooted firmly in their own soil. Here in the midst, the disruption intensifies. What if the women you've harbored grudges against were your profoundest guides, compelling you to confront the Carl Jung shadow you'd otherwise evade? It's raw, this insight, yet it's the liberation recasting scars as sacred knowledge. This question haunts because it challenges the stories we've told ourselves, turning villains into teachers, pain into wisdom. Lean into that haunting. Let it unsettle, and then settle like sediment clearing in stirred water, revealing clarity below, with reflections dancing on the surface that show not just your face, but the depths beneath. Sit with this reflection. What narrative about women veils your personal shadows? Pen it, then invert it. In what ways could embracing it unlock your freedom? Allow the inversion to unfold slowly, revealing possibilities that feel both daunting and exhilarating. Maybe that story of "she's too demanding" flips to "I'm ready to claim my own needs," opening doors you didn't know were there, doors that lead to rooms filled with light and space. With this lucidity blooming, the path forks, the turning point beckons, urging you toward reclamation. This blooming isn't fleeting. It's a seed planted deep, ready to grow with each breath you take in awareness. Feel the roots taking hold, steadying you for the steps ahead, anchoring you in soil rich with the compost of past pains turned fertile. Embrace this unveiling as a soft prompt in the comments below. Voice one emerging truth. Let's create a space of shared unveiling. Your words might just be the mirror someone else needs. With this newfound sharpness vibrating within you, hover at the threshold. Do you retreat into familiar echoes, allowing projections to dictate once more, or pivot inward, gathering the scattered pieces that rightfully belong to you? This isn't a dismissal of women. No, it's anchoring in your essential self, offering love from abundance instead of scarcity. Circling back to Elias, his pivot arrived amid a hushed disagreement with Lila, her voice cutting through, "You're fading right before me." Rather than counter, he halted, sensing the chasm, and posed the pivotal query. What aspect of myself is she embodying that I shun? This inquiry, steeped in Jung's individuation, ignited the change. He began chronicling his projections in a worn notebook, observing how his anima manifested in nocturnal visions, not as ensnarer, but as wise companion urging him toward balance. Elias's notebook became a sanctuary, pages filled with sketches of dreams and reflections, each entry a small act of reclamation, weaving back the threads he'd let slip away in the name of connection. As he delved deeper, Elias noticed patterns emerging, like how his resentment toward Lila's independence mirrored his own suppressed desires for freedom, desires he'd buried under layers of responsibility and expectation, fearing they'd disrupt the stable life he'd built. It was in these quiet evenings, pen in hand, that the Carl Jung Shadow began to shift from a lurking presence to a guiding light, revealing how his projections had been cries from within, not accusations outward. And with each page turned, Elias felt a subtle strengthening, like muscles awakening after long disuse, ready to carry him forward with renewed vigor. Here, optimism tempers the grit. The ache transmutes into gateway once you merge with the Carl Jung Shadow. Men frequently forfeit direction in romance by ceding sovereignty to the archetype, yet reclaiming it honors drives without subjugation. Women likewise, by fusing their animus, the stifled assertiveness, cultivate affection, free from excessive caretaking or subtle dominance. Tangible pathways surface, engage shadow work via inner conversations, envisioning the anima, and inquiring her desires, or through art that channels the suppressed. Jung murmured, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Can you sense the resolve gathering, gentle as first light yet steadfast? You select your core, revolving around no external force. These pathways aren't abstract. They're lived, like starting a daily ritual of quiet contemplation, where you sit with a cup of tea and dialogue with your inner self, listening to the responses that arise from the silence. For Elias, this meant setting aside time each morning to meditate on his dreams, letting the images of his anima, a recurring figure of a flowing river, guide him toward embracing fluidity in his rigid schedule, allowing creativity to seep into his coding projects in unexpected ways, turning lines of code into canvases of innovation. Heighten the feeling, periodically confess this every 90 seconds, merging demands, courage unearthing ancient pains. Yet it's the forge that tempers unyielding fortitude. Feel the heat of that forge, the way it shapes without breaking, transforming raw material into something enduring. It's in this heat that the Carl Jung Shadow reveals its true purpose, not as a destroyer, but as a refiner, burning away the illusions that have kept you fragmented, leaving behind a more resilient whole, polished by the flames of self-awareness. A twist to captivate. Perhaps you assume this leads to isolation, but contrariwise, authentic unions flourish from completeness, not division. This contradiction reassures, showing that wholeness invites deeper bonds, not fewer, like a tree rooted firmly, able to withstand storms while offering shade to others. Elias experienced this firsthand when, after weeks of journaling, he shared a vulnerable dream with Lila, not to seek her interpretation, but to own his inner world. Her response, warm and curious, opened a new layer in their connection, one built on mutual respect rather than unspoken needs, a layer that felt like sunlight filtering through leaves, warm and dappled. Journal tenderly. What singular act today affirms your sovereign essence amid outer tugs? It could be as simple as saying no to a distraction, or yes to a solitary pursuit. Let it be your quiet declaration of self. As you write, notice how the words flow, perhaps halting at first, then gaining momentum, mirroring the tentative steps toward integration that mark this turning point. As this resolve firms, it draws you inward to the return where shards coalesce into harmony. This firmness isn't rigid, it's flexible, like bamboo bending in the wind, resilient and alive. Yet let's linger here a moment longer, because the turning point isn't a single leap. It's a series of small pivots, each one building on the last, like footsteps on a winding path that gradually reveals the landscape ahead. Imagine another soul on this path. Let's call him Marcus, a 40-something teacher from Boston, always the steady guide for his students, yet feeling adrift in his personal life. Marcus met Sophia during a community event, drawn to her quiet strength, but soon found himself resenting how her emotional depth pulled him from his structured routines, making him question his own suppressed feelings. The turning point came during a solitary hike, when a sudden storm forced him to shelter under a rocky overhang. In that enforced pause, memories flooded childhood lessons to man up and hide tears, leading him to exile his anima, that tender, intuitive side. Their rain pounding around him, Marcus whispered the question, "What if this storm within me is the Carl Jung shadow calling me home?" He returned changed, beginning a practice of drawing simple sketches of emotions he'd long ignored, integrating the shadow not through grand gestures, but through daily acknowledgments. Sophia noticed the shift. Their conversations deepened, free from the weight of unspoken projections, evolving into a partnership where both could thrive like two rivers, merging without losing their flow. This story of Marcus echoes Elias's, reminding us that the turning point often arrives in ordinary moments, disguised as disruption, but truly an invitation to wholeness. As you consider your own threshold, feel the subtle pull inward, the way your breath steadies when you honor that call. It's here that hope begins to weave through the grit, not as naive optimism, but as a grounded knowing that integration is possible, one compassionate step at a time. Pause and breathe every 90 seconds. Let this sink in. What if the very qualities you admire or resent in her are the keys to unlocking your own buried treasures? Allow that possibility to resonate, stirring the resolve to turn toward, rather than away from, the Carl Jung shadow. Expanding on these pathways, consider incorporating movement, perhaps a mindful walk, where you consciously release a projection with each step, imagining it dissolving like mist in the sun. For women engaging their animus, this might mean asserting a boundary in a relationship, not from fear, but from a place of inner strength, allowing the shadow to integrate without overwhelming the self. Jung's process of individuation isn't linear. It's spiral, circling back to deepen the merger each time, each loop revealing new facets like a gem turned in the light. Reflect again. Which dream or fleeting thought has been recurring, hinting at your anima's voice? Jot it down. Let it guide your next small act of reclamation. As we dwell in this turning point, notice how the initial ache softens, transforming into a quiet energy propelling you forward. It's the dawn of sovereignty, where you no longer orbit external lights, but shine from your own core. Let this pivot linger. Close your eyes for a breath, feel the threshold beneath your feet, and step across with gentle intention. Gradually, akin to tendrils delving into fertile soil, you circle back to your core, not as repair, but as recollection. The shadowed visions of women mellow, evolving from restraints to allies on the voyage. Fusion invites the anima's treasures. Her inventiveness permeates your endeavors. Her insight hones your decisions. Theo discovered this in modest gestures, offering his verses to Nora not for validation, but from a place of self-sufficiency. Their link matured unburdened by projection's heaviness. Schopenhauer's acrimony fades in this light. Jung's insight endures. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. You cherish without forfeiture, offer presence without capitulation. Imagine this reconnection, as returning to a childhood home. After years away, the room's familiar, yet renewed, filled with memories that now bring comfort rather than sorrow. Each corner holding a piece of you waiting to be embraced. As you step through that threshold in your mind, notice how the air softens, how the light filters through windows, long shuttered, illuminating dust motes that dance like forgotten dreams coming alive once more. This isn't a forced homecoming. It's a natural pull, like gravity drawing you back to center, where the fragments of your being begin to whisper their truths, weaving together in a tapestry that's uniquely yours. Here, the Carl Jung Shadow, once a distant echo, becomes a harmonious thread in that tapestry, enriching the whole, adding shades of depth that make the colors more vivid and true. This homecoming soothes the void, weaving the fractured essence into serenity. Aids abound, contemplations on archetypes sessions to disentangle maternal scars, expressive pursuits to voice the muted. For women, parallels exist, welcoming the animus nurtures self-reliance, evolving bonds into reciprocal expansion. Solace flows no more marionette, but sovereign entity cherishing from the unified self. These aids are bridges like guided meditations, where you visualize the anima as a guiding light, or creative writing exercises that give form to the unspoken, allowing the integration to unfold organically without force. Picture yourself in a quiet space, perhaps under a canopy of trees, or in the glow of evening light, engaging in these practices, letting the words flow from your pen like a river, finding its way to the sea, carrying away the debris of old projections and revealing clear waters beneath. It's in these moments that the Carl Jung Shadow transforms from a haunting presence into a cherished companion, one that adds depth and color to your inner landscape, turning what was once a barren field into a blooming garden of possibilities, petals unfurling under the gentle sun of awareness. Halt every few moments does the tranquility anchor. It's the essence's hushed reunion. Feel that anchor deep in your being, a steady presence that grounds you amidst life's fluctuations. As you pause, let the silence speak, allowing the subtle shifts to register the way your breath deepens, your shoulders relax, and a quiet knowing settles in like roots, taking hold in nourishing soil. This tranquility isn't fleeting. It's cumulative, building with each breath, each acknowledgement, creating a foundation that's resilient yet flexible, able to weather the storms while remaining open to the sun. And in that openness, new seeds can take root, ideas and feelings long dormant now sprouting, nourished by the serenity you've cultivated. No dramatic close. This melding murmurs, priming for emergence. It's a subtle hum growing into a symphony of self, where every note resonates with authenticity. Listen to that hum within you. Now that gentle vibration that signals the beginning of something profound, an emergence not marked by fanfare, but by the quiet certainty of being whole. As the melding continues, notice how relationships around you begin to shift, not because others change, but because you do, approaching them from a place of fullness rather than lack, allowing connections to flourish in ways that honor both your sovereignty and theirs, like harmonies blending in a song that's greater than its parts. Reflect warmly. Which hushed facet of you yearns for recall? Beckon it softly. Perhaps it's a creative impulse or an emotional depth. Invite it with open arms, letting it integrate at its own pace. As you beckon, imagine extending a hand to that facet, like welcoming a long-lost part of your family back to the table where it can share its stories and enrich the feast of your life. This invitation isn't rushed. It's patient, allowing the facet to reveal itself layer by layer, each revelation adding to the richness of your inner world, like adding spices to a stew that simmers slowly to perfection. And as unity flourishes, we stir to the essence's truth. This flourishing is quiet, like dawn, breaking, illuminating without overwhelming. Feel the warmth of that dawn on your skin, the way it gently coaxes the world awake, mirroring the awakening within you. A slow, beautiful unfolding that promises new beginnings without erasing the lessons of the night. Hold this reconnection near. Maybe ignite a flame this evening, emblematic of your revived inner glow. Watch the flame dance, mirroring the vitality now awakening within you. As it flickers, let it remind you of the Carl Jung Shadow's role in this dance, not as an adversary, but as the fuel that keeps the light burning steady and true, casting shadows that now tell stories of growth rather than fear. Let's linger here a little longer, allowing the reconnection to deepen. You might find yourself recalling moments from earlier in life, times when the pull toward a woman felt like a loss. But now in this light, you see it as a signpost guiding you back to the parts of yourself you'd set aside in the name of survival. It's okay if tears come. They're the rain that nourishes this inner soil, helping the seeds of wholeness to sprout. Breathe into that possibility, feeling the earth beneath you shift ever so slightly, making room for growth, for expansion into spaces once constricted. As we continue this gentle return, consider how the women in your life, once seen through the lens of projection, now appear as mirrors of your own potential. What if Lila for Elias wasn't just a partner, but a reflection of his untapped creativity? Her independence echoing the freedom he'd denied himself in his structured world. And for Theo, Nora's vitality wasn't a threat, but an invitation to let his poetry breathe in the daylight, integrating the Anima's fire into his blueprints. These stories aren't distant. They're echoes of your own whispering that the path back isn't about erasing the past, but embracing it, letting the Carl Jung shadow weave its wisdom into the fabric of your days, thread by thread, creating a cloth that's warm and enduring. Pause again. Let the serenity wash over you, like a soft wave carrying away the remnants of division. Every 90 seconds or so, a subtle affirmation rises. This return is yours, a sacred reclaiming that no one can take away. Feel it in your chest, that quiet expansion, as if your heart is opening doors, long closed, welcoming the light that pours in like honey, sweet and golden. In this space, explore further aids for integration. Perhaps try dream journaling, capturing the nocturnal visits from your anima, decoding their symbols, not as puzzles to solve, but as messages to feel. Or engage in active imagination, as Jung suggested, dialoguing with the shadow in your mind's eye, asking what it needs, what it offers. For women navigating their animus, this might mean inviting the animus through assertive practices, like setting boundaries that honor your inner drive, turning potential dominance into empowered collaboration, a dance where both sides lead and follow in turn. As the reconnection deepens, notice how everyday moments transform. A simple conversation with a loved one becomes richer, unburdened by unspoken expectations. Your work, once a grind, infuses with creativity as the anima's inventiveness flows freely. This isn't magic. It's the natural outcome of unity, where the Carl Jung shadow, once exiled, now enriches every aspect of your being, like a river feeding a landscape, making it lush and alive. Reflect once more, what small ritual can you create to honor this return? Maybe a daily walk where you listen to the wind, letting it carry whispers from your core, or sketching symbols that emerge in meditation, giving form to the intangible. These acts anchor the reconnection, making it a living part of you, pulsing with the rhythm of your days. And as we near the essence's truth, let unity's bloom inspire a quiet revolution within, where shadows become light and the self returns home. In this serene stirring, the core unveils manipulation stems not from women, but your latent shadow ensnaring you. Weave it in, and affection turns volition, not snare. Women lack cages, men evade servitude. The confines were illusions now dispelled. Jung noted, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. You've plumbed the abyss. Ascend now." This ascent isn't hurried. It's deliberate, each step a affirmation of your reclaimed wholeness, carrying you toward horizons that feel both new and eternally familiar. As you rise, notice how the air lightens, how the weight of old projections falls away, like autumn leaves making space for fresh growth. This liberation whispers, not shouts, inviting you to savor the freedom to let it seep into your bones like sunlight after a long night, warming places that had grown cold and still. Have you sensed that dread toward women as evasion of your inner truths? Ponder it your leave to return homeward. Let the pondering deepen, revealing layers of understanding that empower rather than confine. As you sit with this, perhaps in the quiet of evening, allow the question to unfold, peeling back the veils you've woven over time, exposing the raw, beautiful truth beneath. It's in this pondering that the Carl Jung Shadow reveals its gift not as a burden, but as a key to deeper authenticity, turning what was once fear into fertile ground for connection, a ground where seeds of genuine relating can take root and flourish. If this echoes within, share your revelation in comments, subscribe for further soul reflections. Yet beyond, bear this integrity onward. Carry it into your days, letting it shape interactions with quiet grace. Imagine stepping into tomorrow with this newfound lens, where encounters with women or anyone become opportunities for mutual mirroring, not unconscious entanglement. Share if it calls to you, but know that the true sharing begins within. In the silent affirmations, you give yourself affirmations that build like layers of pearl, creating something luminous from the grit of experience. You stand liberated. Feel that stance, solid yet open, like a mountain rooted in earth yet reaching for sky. This liberation isn't an end, it's a beginning, a threshold crossed into a life where the Carl Jung Shadow walks beside you as ally, illuminating paths once shrouded in mystery, casting light that reveals not threats, but treasures hidden in plain sight. Let's extend this awakening a bit further, allowing the liberation to resonate. You might find yourself reflecting on past relationships, seeing them not as failures, but as chapters in your individuation story. Each one a step closer to this moment of clarity. What if the pain you carried was the very catalyst needed to awaken? Hold that thought gently, letting it soften the edges of old wounds, transforming them into wisdom scars that tell of your journey. Scars that, when touched, remind you of your strength rather than your suffering. Every 90 to 120 seconds, let a wave of gratitude wash over you for the mirrors, the triggers, the splits that led here. This gratitude isn't forced, it's organic, rising from the recognition that every encounter was a call home disguised as challenge, a call that now echoes with the sweetness of arrival. As we linger in this whispered freedom, consider practical ways to embody it. Start small. Next time a familiar pull arises, pause and ask, what part of me is this awakening journal? The answer letting it guide your response. Or share a vulnerable truth with a trusted friend, not seeking approval, but owning your wholeness. For women navigating their animus, this might mean voicing a need without apology, claiming space in a world that often asks you to shrink, claiming it with the quiet power of one who knows her worth. The essence here is permission. Permission to let go of the illusions, to embrace the Carl Jung shadow fully, and to love from a place of completeness. Jung's words echo again, roots in hell for growth to heaven. You've done the rooting. Now watch the blooming petals opening one by one, revealing colors you didn't know existed within you. Reflect one last time. What one truth from this journey will you carry forward? Whisper it to yourself. Let it anchor in your soul. And as this awakening settles, know that you're not alone in this spiral. Many walk similar paths, finding their way back through the shadows. If it moves, you drop a comment below your story, might light someone's way. But ultimately, this liberation is yours to live. Step into it softly, with grace,